And as I was listening to John sing his own Canada, I keep thinking all the time that we're in Montreal Forum and you're rushing to set to blare out "Oh Canada." Well, I guess so. Well, I'm very pleased to be here, everyone, and thank you for coming here. And I hope this is the first of many year reviews of the Regina Chamber of Commerce. I want to introduce my colleagues and friends of City Council before I begin my formal introduction. And they're seated around the table here. Barbara Young in Ward 1, Bob Hawkins in Ward 2, Sean Fraser, Ward 3, Brian Burnett, Ward 4, John Fougere, Ward 5, Wade Murray, Ward 6, Micheal, I think is here, Ward 8, Terry Hinks, Ward 9, and Jerry Flagel, Ward 10. Councilor Bryce couldn't make it, but a round of applause for a great group of people. 2016 City Council, and I'm very proud to work with them. You know, we have a shared vision. We love our city. We want to make it a better place to live and own a business and have raise a family. We share those common goals and objectives, but we're a team, of course, and we may not always agree on everything. That's, I think it's good for the city to have that. A healthy discussion on debates is always healthy. It reflects better decision-making across our city. Barack Obama once said, the strongest democracies flourish from frequent and lively debate. But they endure when people of every background and belief find a way to set aside smaller differences in service of a greater purpose. And I think this really encapsulates this council. We want debate, we want a difference of opinion, but at the end of the day, we're part of a team. I also want to acknowledge our city administration that's here. We have a couple of tables here. Under the leadership of Glenn Davies, the city manager, we have a dedicated team who are committed to provide excellent customer service for the citizens of Regina, and I thank them for their hard work and commitment every year. So one of the big events in 2012, of course, was a little thing called the election. But this was a different kind of election. We have a different council, of course, but it was the end of an era. And that was, of course, with the leaving of our former mayor, Pat Fougere. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge him and talk about a great visionary and mayor for our city. He governed us well for 12 years, and I wish him well in his future endeavors, so I think he deserves a nice round of applause for what he did for our city. So City Council, the civic administration, and the City Council really is the closest government to the people, and we are very much the service of the public. The decisions that we make affects everyone's life every day. We are very much aware of the confidence that has been bestowed upon us by the voters of Regina. But one thing they did do, they affirmed the direction of City Council over the last several years. There will be some different changes in emphasis and some policies, but they like the direction, the growth, the opportunity, the momentum that we have in our city, and I think they want it to continue. So we do have a fresh mandate. We have a solid foundation that we will develop over the next several years. And what I've heard, and I think what members of council heard, what the public said very clear during the election, is they want us to move forward aggressively on a number of key issues. Housing, most importantly, affordable housing, the Regina Revitalization Initiative, and in particular the stadium, and of course, infrastructure renewal. That I think is very, very important for us. So we have a lot to accomplish over the next 4 years. And we will work with partners like the Regina Chamber of Commerce, who continue to work for growth and prosperity in our community for the benefit of everyone, and we share that vision very much so. So we'll work together for a common goal of strengthening our community, providing the best quality of life possible. So I appreciate the support that John has given us and the board of directors, particularly of the Regina Revitalization Initiative and the stadium. We appreciate that very much, John. That issue, the RRI, was a topic of conversation during the election. So it's probably good that we start on that point as a year review. Again, the election result was pretty clear as far as I'm concerned, that the public wants to see the stadium go forward and go forward in a comprehensive way. But the RRI is much bigger than the stadium. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This project is really about renewing our downtown, renewing our city, revitalizing our downtown. It's a generational opportunity to move forward on a piece of land downtown, industrial land, CP lands, to move that forward and have a choice how we want to see that vision in the future. How we see the current Mosaic site develop as a multi-family dwelling and a new neighborhood for our city. The stadium itself will epitomize a maturing of our city and the growth of our city in a fantastic way. So I won't go into the details of the stadium funding other than to say it's a $270 million project funded jointly with the province, the city, and the Rough Riders. And very soon you'll be seeing through council the formalization of those agreements to move forward, and we will move forward in a quick way. In Taylor Field, we're looking at that once the new stadium is built. We'll demolish the current stadium. That's about 20 acres, about 700 housing units will be there, retail, commercial, about $25 million in public investment, and about $225 to $300 million in private sector investment, which I think is very important. The CP lands, the original place for the stadium, but now it's too small. We found that we would have to pay some $30 million to expand that site, and that really wasn't cost effective for us. That's 17.5 acres, and we expect CP to move out that land by July 2014, and we'll move into the public sector and private sector investment, about $325 to $400 million in private sector investment. So when we hear that there's no private sector investment in the RI, not the case at all. Very much private sector driven. We also have the efficient community plan ongoing as another issue that's been happening throughout the last couple of years. In fact, since 2009, the OCP has been guiding our decisions on how we grow our city, where we have investments and services over the next 25 years. The scope of that project is incredibly complex and varied. It deals with land use, transportation, economic development, infrastructure, social and cultural development, and our natural built environment. The final phases are happening now, and we can see this report finished in 2013. But there are other developments that have been happening around the city. And of course, you'll know there's a lot of cranes around the city. It's great to see that. In fact, I don't remember the time we had so many cranes at one time in our city. Last week, I participated in the official opening of the Hill Center Tower 3, the first high-rise built in downtown in 20 years. That's a $100 million investment in our community and over 200,000 square feet of building space with Mosaic as the lead tenant. And Harvard has also announced another tower on the corner of 11th Avenue and 12th and Hamilton Street for a farm credit Canada to consolidate operations, and that should be done by the summer of 2015. Work continues on a $31 million 10-story Center Square Place condominium on Broad Street, as well as a $30 million 12-story Queens on Rose condominium complex as well. And these two developments are significant because it's dealing with more residents downtown. And our focus has been, and it will continue to be, for downtown redevelopment. And there's nothing better than having people living downtown to make it a vibrant 24-hour downtown. But there are other good news stories happening as well. You may have heard about Consolidated Fast Freight announcing its plans to relocate from their Dewey Avenue location to the Global Transportation Hub. That's a $4 million, 110,000 square foot cross-dock facility that's located on the CP lands in the Mold Yard. And the cross-docking is really moving cargo from one vehicle to another without really using much warehousing, so it's an innovative way to move goods and services around. Canadian Logistics Services announced plans to start this phase 3 at the GTH. That's an 80,000 square foot frozen food component. Will be added to its 1 million square foot warehouse and distribution center in the GTH. It's the largest distribution center in Western Canada, and will employ up to 800 people. That is absolutely fantastic news for our community. Each week, 3,000 trucks come and go at the facility, transporting 20 million pounds and 30 million pieces of product to lot stores in Western Canada. That is true economic development and value-added investment by the public and private sector. In fact, the combined investment is about $650 million so far, and it's growing as well. The City of Regina signed an agreement with Western Potash recently. They'll purchase effluent from the city's supply water process, and that's part of their solution mining milestone. And we will receive for that $200 million over the next 45 years for that service. YAR announced plans to double its fertilizer production at its developing facility between the Moose Jaw and Regina, the corridor. And Consumers Cooperative Refinery recently finished its $2.7 billion investment, and the production began in October. This is another significant investment that's been taking place. 150 companies provide services during that project, and over 5,000 people a day worked on that project at the height of its construction, so lots of activity happening. There's construction in a 4-story, 127-room, 4 Points Sheraton underway at Dewey Avenue. That's a $15 million project that we expected to be open for breakup. And you know, places are at a premium for breakup, so it's good to see them coming in. London Drugs will be planning a second location on South Albert, and they'll replace the space vacated by Canadian Tire, which will be moving to South End Mall this spring. And other retailers moving into that mall are Sport Check, Marshwood Warehouse, and Atmosphere. And the outdoor retailer Carbella's announced plans for a 50,000 square foot store in Grasslands in Regina Southwest Corner. Another big development that took place is the Harbor Landing Business Park. Council went through a change or review of its office space policy, and as a result of that, we're seeing a concentration, small amount, in the Harbor Landing Business Park, a $60 million, 160,000 square foot development that will be finished between 2014 and 2015. It's a very important development for us, and showing that we're servicing those companies that work out in the southern part of Saskatchewan as well. But earlier this year, Money Sense magazine ranked our city as 5th on its list of the best cities to live in. And their ranking is based upon population, employment, air quality, income, and we're all at the top of the list on all that. So ranking 5 is very good when investors want to come to locations. They look at this list to see what's the best place to go to. So there's lots of activity around the city. You can go anywhere you want in the city. You'll see new houses being built, new businesses starting. We have a vibrant and attractive city. Some of our general economic indicators show a long-term systemic growth, which is really setting us apart from the rest of Canada. Our population is growing faster than any other place in Canada. Our population in the province is 1,080,000 people, and we benefit from the growth of solid economic growth year after year. Our inflation rate is low, 1.6%, and we have a 79% increase in the year-to-date housing starts in November. So we're seeing low vacancy rate, we're seeing lots of houses being built, so it's showing you that we have a fundamental growth in our economy over time. We have record high building permits. As of November, 722 million, that is a record, and some of us are thinking we may top close to $1 billion by the end of the year. Despite some of the slowdown in the second half of the year, our MLS market is anticipating another probably best 1 year we've ever had. But I think most importantly for me is indicators from those who look at economies. One of them is the Economist Board of Canada. And they say our economy remains strong, and they project our growth will finish this year at 3.7%, significantly higher than other parts of Canada, and much higher than a 25-year average of about 2%. So despite the tight labor market, our employment has risen at least 3% in 3 of the past 4 years. So our labor force participation is really going at an all-time high. We all know about the talent challenge facing us, and that is happening all around Canada, particularly in Saskatchewan. And I want to tip my hat to the Regina Chamber of Commerce for their all-nations job fair that was hosted by the Chamber a couple weeks ago. I understand there was about 1,100 people that went through there, mostly Aboriginal self-declared. But key here is linking jobs to training the people. And that is a fundamental disconnect that happens everywhere else. But for John from the Chamber, I want to thank you for the work you're doing to bring training in, engaging First Nations people in our economy. Very, very important for us. So our population is growing. We have strong measurements of demand, and housing is hitting a 30-year high in 2011. We expect to see the same in 2012. So I want to switch a bit to the future, or today into the future. And I mentioned earlier that during the election, I set out housing as one of my key priorities. Our council is committed to address this issue. I'll call it a crisis because that's what it is, in a more comprehensive way, a more strategized way. We have a 0.6% vacancy rate. I guess it actually went to 0.8, so there's some movement there, but not too much. But this is one of the downsides of aggressive growth. And it really is unacceptable in a prosperous society and city where we have no homes that are available for those who need it the most. So the market will respond to market housing. It always does. And I'll give you the stats of how new homes are being built. But the issue becomes affordable housing and social housing as a focal point. And we as a government and as a society have to take care of those who can't take care of themselves and looking for accommodations. And housing is the biggest issue, no question, during the election, and remains that way. So the focus really is bring forward the federal, provincial government in the city, along with developers and our business community and the community groups, not to assign blame for why we have this situation, but to come forward with concrete solutions. So early in 2013, in the first few months of 2013, there'll be more public announcements on how we want to move forward in a comprehensive way. Because it does take the federal and provincial governments with the resources and the responsibility, and the city on the ground to know where those priorities are, to come together, listen to the community, and find some long-term solutions. The other priority, certainly in 2013 and beyond, is going to be regional economic development. And in the early days of this administration, there have been some issues that have come forward that really crystallize the issue of regional economic development and the necessity for cooperation. We have to build on our partnerships. It's crucial for economic development, sustained economic development, that we work together and stand together. We have a lot to gain, but we have so much to lose if we don't work together. Having planned growth is much better than growth for growth's sake or sporadic growth. So the view for long-term economic development is to coordinate that growth and not have one-offs that happen that stunt the growth and both for the city and for the rural municipalities around us. Infrastructure is key as well. We all know that's fundamental to sustained growth as well. We know the federal government's funding for infrastructure will be finishing in 2014, but we applaud them for the gas tax, the Building Canada Fund, the Economic Action Plan stimulus funding that has been fundamental to our growth. It's matched with provincial funding, and we have seen many prosperous things happen to us here. But again, those funding programs finish in 2014. We need to have the long-term infrastructure program that's predictable and sustainable over time. Through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the cities have asked the federal government for a $2.5 billion annual investment in infrastructure that the cities are prepared to match dollar for dollar. We as Regina City and other municipalities and cities support this crucial investment, and we look forward to seeing those announcements by the federal government in the future. Our provincial government has been absolutely stalwart in the support of infrastructure renewal. They face challenges as we do, but they have provided us with some support over time, and I thank them on behalf of the Regina City Council for the work they've done. And I'm optimistic that once the federal government announces this funding program, that the province will also link up its infrastructure renewal as well. Very, very important for us too. We'll be addressing the infrastructure gap as a City Council, as we must do. We have some significant projects coming forward, not least of which is our wastewater treatment plant that we'll deal with shortly, as well as our ongoing infrastructure renewal programs for roads and streets and water pipes and sewers. But we'll be looking at some innovative ways to design and fund those programs, including P3 partnerships. This is an innovative way to look at how we can provide more financing up front and get these projects going. So ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I wanted to say that Regina has a tremendous opportunity ahead of it. The ROI, the Global Transformation Hub, and the growth downtown throughout the city continue to have us lead the nation in growth. We have a tremendous opportunity going forward, and I'm very optimistic about what's happening today and in the future. In fact, I think 2013 will be as an incredible year as it was in 2011 and 2012. I want to thank the Regina Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to be here, and thank the business community for its confidence in investing in our community, in hiring people, and investing for our future. And on a personal note, I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and all the best in 2013. Thank you very much. Say I have never had a standing ovation. You just made my day. Let's talk about property taxes.
So 3 questions for you. Just for the back. There's something staff that don't want to know. First question: how important is public consultation to the decision process at City Hall, for example, the plaza downtown and traffic?
So way to start with that one. Public consultation is critical, and we're people, we're humans, we do make mistakes, we learn from those mistakes. We can always have better consultation, and when you look back on things, you can say, well, we could have done better. And part of what we do is we learn from what happened, and the plaza downtown It was a difficult project. But many of the issues that we faced were beyond our control, like weather, disconnect with respect to some of the project management was difficult with that as well. And I make no apologies for that, and make no excuses for it either. The public consultation is absolutely critical. The stadium is another issue. We felt we communicated clearly with that, and very clearly people were asking questions, how is the stadium going to work? But the more information that came out, the more people understood. So we can always do better. But I think our communication with the city does the best that it can, but we'll learn all the time.
Thank you. Next question here. The city has gone out of the province for recycling when we have recycling companies here. Why?
It's a great question. You know, it's called the Agreement on Trade. It's called procurement law in Canada, and the best, most effective price wins. And I would only be concerned if someone from Regina was competing for a project in, say, Edmonton or Saskatoon, they lost it because of some subjective reason. We put the tender out, and we asked for the most competitive price, and we have a ranking for it. And certainly we would all want to see a Regina term win, a current company win, no question about that. But we're subject to trade laws, and the best company wins. That's all I can say, because we all benefit from that. Also, we get the best price. And it's not about picking a Regina company as getting the best price, the best product for the taxpayers of the city.
Last question. Has the city managed to come to an agreement on the pension issue?
We're very close. Very close, and I suspect in the coming days we'll hear about this. But this is a complex problem. Firstly, it's a defined benefit plan, which, as we all know, public sector pension plans are in trouble in varying degrees. This pension plan, as we all know, is not sustainable. But we have 5 employer groups and many unions on the other side who are negotiating right now, and we will be seeing a resolution very soon. Something that honors the hard work done by employees over time, those who are already on pension, have retired, and those who are going through the system now will respect the contributions they made as a city, but also respect the sustainability of the employer to pay into it. So we'll find out soon what that means. But what's key is that a very major problem will be solved to the satisfaction of the employer groups and the employee groups. So it's very, very good news.
That's all the questions that I have, Your Worship. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you very much.